So I'm Dee Hardwicke and I'm an artist and designer. I'm inspired by the natural landscape, and especially the landscape that surrounds my home here in the Brecon Beacons in Wales. I only have to step outside to be inspired by the changing seasons, the changing light. Light is really important to me because I love colour so much, and light changes the way that we see colour and also how we feel about colour, because we have an emotional relationship with colour and the way we wear colour and use colour in our everyday life. So that's really important to me. My work is a kind of ongoing journal. I can't remember a time when I wasn't drawing, painting, or making things. And I love celebrating the beauty in everyday things. So for me, knitting encompasses all of that. And, it's all of that that inspires my work. All the things I love, all of the things I see, and the florals, but also the geometric patterns in nature really inspires my work. So for the seasonal palettes, it was great because the first seasonal palette I did last year, I chose the felted tweed, which is just the best yarn for colour work. And it worked really well. So the Rowan team presented me with 3 new yarns this season and said, Dee, why don't you have a play with these? So the first one was just my passion for a particular yarn, and the second one was suggestions from the Rowan team, and they wanted me to use all of my knitting inspiration with 3 new textures. So that was great fun. So I took that challenge and that became part of my brief. So I responded to each yarn and each texture in a different way. Oh my word, this is really funny. The first thing that I ever knitted was quite ambitious. So typical Dee style, I can't just start off, gradually and do something little and build up. So I started straight in with the sweater. And if that wasn't good enough, I thought, what can I do to change this? I wanted to play with the pattern, not knowing anything about the constructor of a pattern or how to knit a pattern. So I thought, I'd quite like to change the shape and maybe change the yarn. Didn't really get swatching or gauging, just thought visually this would look good. Do you know what? It didn't. It was a disaster, but it was so much fun because from the word go, it was all about playing and experimenting and enjoying. Then I kind of went back to the drawing board and thought maybe I just better get the basics here. And it was actually a friend's mum who taught me the basics of knitting when I was a teenager, having fallen in love with her yarn stash, and that was it. I've never looked back, really. So my design process for knitting has involved with my growing passion. When I started off, I was really interested in translating some of my paintings and some of my patterns into knitting. And I'll just show you a little example of something I did recently, but it will give you a good idea. So this is a painting I did, which is a geometric pattern of a wildflower meadow. And I kind of broke it down into little squares and all the different colors I saw. And then this is my knitted swatch. So it's a kind of ongoing, evolving process. And I just wanted to show you another example, which is completely different. So many years ago, I was commissioned to do some ceramic tiles for a biologist. And because my passion for making started at a very young age, and I work with clay and yarn and wood and loads of different materials. I've had a studio for 30 years. I won't say how old I am, but for a long time. So I've experimented with practical materials, which I love to use my fine art to inspire practical things. And so I was commissioned to make these butterfly tiles, and I had to find out what the local butterflies were in our area. That started a love and a passion. So these were my original butterfly sketches. And I'll just show you quickly a little butterfly purse, but I've created many things with butterflies. And again, it just shows you how the one feeds into the other quite naturally. And as I say, it's a kind of, it's a kind of ongoing journal for me. My work is an expression of who I am really and how I develop as a person. So it's an ongoing story, and it's lovely really. It just makes sense of the world for me, and making marks and making things is a very important part of who I am. Do you know, I was asked this question. I did an interview for a magazine, and it was about your favorite view. And I travel all over the world. And indeed, I've lived in lots of places around the world. But I absolutely love my home here in the Brecon Beacons. And my favorite view, when I had a studio, I have another studio in Monmouth, and driving back, I see the Sugarloaf, which is a mountain coming into the area. And it's just my favorite view because it says home, it says passion, it says everything that I love really. And I really do love home. And I wish I could think of a more exotic answer, but home is where my heart is. So when I approach a new project, I look at the whole thing. So the question was, do I look at design or color first? Well, it kind of happens at the same time, because as I'm drawing, I'm seeing color. As I'm knitting swatches, each stitch for me is like a brushstroke when I'm painting. So it's one in the same, color, um, drawing, when I look at something, light, I just talked about light. All of that is sort of one thing for me. So everything kind of starts off and evolves at the same time. And yes, at one point the design element will take over, because I've got to design a collection and I have to see how that works. But that initial breath of inspiration, I think, encompasses both line and color and texture, all three. Ooh, which of the new seasonal palette shades is my personal favorite? I absolutely love the hydrangea blue in the Kid Classic. I think this is the most beautiful blue and goes with any other color and changes with other colors. But probably the color I'm most proud of is the seed pod in the cotton cashmere, because what I wanted to achieve was, so when I'm walking along the hedgerows in the autumn here, and the colours start to change and everything is tinged with a kind of, with charcoals, mauves, pinks, all of those colours kind of tinge the edge of everything. And I wanted to encompass all of that in one colour. And I think with this grey, with this seed pod, you get a grey with a breath of mauve coming through. And what's quite interesting when I develop my colours is we don't go by Pantones or anything. I actually paint colour cards. Let me grab one for you. So this is this is a light blue one. So I actually mix the colours with my watercolours, and colour cards are given to the dyer and they work from my watercolours. So they have all that variation of the brushstroke. And I think it really helps because I do it that way. It's a different challenge for them, and it's really giving them a moment in time of me mixing those colors and designing the colors. And so I love all of the colors, I really do. But I think that was probably the hardest to achieve. And so such a surprise, a happy surprise that we achieved that. And that color goes with so many things. And because you get that kind of background of mauve, that breath of mauve, it picks up colors in different ways depending on what your complexion is or what other colors you knit with it. So it's a really exciting color for very humble gray. Which of the new designs is my personal favorite? Do you know, I'm a real, I'm always cold, and because of that, I'm always wrapping myself up in wraps and layers. So I love all of the pieces. I know that sounds like a bit of, oh, she loves all the pieces, but you know, I layer things in different ways. And if you follow my stories on Instagram, so I've got an Instagram page at Dee Hardwicke, and I'm constantly putting inspiration on there and ideas. And on my stories, I'm taking you on my walks with me. And you'll see from that, I'm wrapping myself up in different combinations and different layers and different colors depending on what the day is like. You know, do I want to kind of wrap myself in the colors that I see, or do I want to contrast? Do I want to lift myself? Do I want to kind of snuggle down? And so I think a combination of them all is my favorite on different days. So it depends on the day which one is my favorite. So I think, you know, I really do like playing with all of the pieces, and even pieces that I've designed before that come into play with some of the new pieces. So I think, you know, again, it's that sense of play within me and that naturally eclectic, my eclectic nature. So to choose one thing would be difficult. My advice to a brand new knitter would be to choose from my previous story a simple pattern. So something that you can achieve. So maybe a garter stitch scarf or something. Then choose the most luxurious, most beautiful yarn that catches your eye that you can afford. Because I think the beauty of knitting is feeling a beautiful yarn, being inspired by watching that color or those colors grow that you've chosen. And I think, you know, quite often I hear, oh, start off with a yarn that's maybe a yarn that you wouldn't choose, but something that you're not investing in. Invest in your passion from the word go, and it will last forever. If I was a yarn, what would I be? Well, it would have to be super soft, rich in color, and just something that I would want to wrap myself in and never take off. So it would have to be a combination of tweed to get those beautiful variations of color, cashmere and silk, of course, for depth of color and pure softness. And what I would call that yarn, I don't know, but it would encompass those three things.